So my name's Haley. I chose the United Nations is not an effective world tool to protect human rights across the world. I will be discussing a little bit of the reasons why, obviously. But first, I wanted to go over what exactly human rights are and what the United Nations does and doesn't do in this case, and what they could be doing better. Um, the human rights are legal guarantees protecting individuals, groups against actions which interfere with your fundamental freedoms. So this is obviously regardless of sex, ethnicity, race, religion, culture, any of those factors. And generally, these are the right to the freedom of speech, the right of free press, freedom, life, and liberty, the freedom of education, to get a job, etc. And one of the ones that I will be hinting on, just as an example, is the freedom of speech. But anyways, moving forward. So I just wanted to discuss what committees the United Nations has that works directly on human rights related issues. So the UN has approximately 10 committees that work directly with human rights issues. So one big committee that I will be talking about is going to be the Human Rights Committee, which obviously I will go further in detail, but there is also, I believe, the Committee of Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, the Committee of Migrant Workers, the Committee and Subcommittee of Against Torture, and then there's also a Committee of the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, and then there are a few more committees, not exactly, can't name them off the top of my head, but moving forward, I just wanted to go ahead and go over what exactly the Human Rights Committee does, because this is a big part of my debate element, is talking about what is lacking in the Human Rights Committee. So the main office in the UN that deals with the human rights is the Human Rights Committee. The Human Rights Committee collaborates with governments to strengthen their human rights capabilities and just work together as a whole to obviously make the world a little bit happier, more peaceful place for all countries, regardless of any other entities. But I wanted to go ahead and talk about there are numerous countries that take place or are involved in the Human Rights Committee. This and they have seats, like numbers of seats, and they're based like demographically. So African and Asia, I believe, have 13 seats each on the committee, whereas Latin America and the Caribbean have 8. Eastern Europe has 6, Western Europe, the US, Canada, New Zealand has 7, and then, but unfortunately, the majority of these countries outside of Western Europe have very flawed human records and policies, meaning they just don't abide by what the Human Rights Committee is basically trying to accomplish. So, and going more in depth about that is, for instance, have been multiple countries that have been known to violate human rights, but are involved in this Human Rights Committee, which is ironic and kind of surprising. So, for example, Venezuela, the president Maduro, does not allow freedom of speech or political opposition. It's just not one of those things that's acceptable in Venezuela. In the Philippines, the president there kills people suspected of drug dealing or smuggling. obviously in the United States, you would go to jail, but in the Philippines, the cost of that could be death, which is obviously, there's no human rights uh, regarding for the people that do that. Anyways, then in Cuba, there are virtually no human rights, and you basically do is what you're told when you're told to do it, etc. And then even in Egypt, they banned government criticism. So basically, you if you have something negative to say about the government, you don't say it. You just keep it to yourself. No, it is what it is. Um, and then there are also some questionable council members. So the Human Rights Council members are elected by the UN General Assembly, and they serve approximately 3 years. However, the US this year has withdrawn from the Human Rights Council, which is an extreme red flag, but they apparently have withdrew because of chronic bias against Israel, which when learning more about that, it was basically countries that are known to violate human rights are, thinking Israel is not worthy of, obviously, being in the Human Rights Council, even though they're the only democracy in the Middle East, which the United Nations and the Human Rights Council is a supporter of democratic or democracies versus dictatorships and so forth. Anyways, many countries within this committee are not democracies, and few have any representative governments at all. The countries with more human rights conflicts, like I said, are the ones bashing or bullying Israel. But anyways, there's also I don't remember what I was going to say. But other issues include the Human Rights Council has protected human rights abusers, as well as there's withdrawn, with the US withdrawn from the council, there has been way less of a large figure to support, the human rights going forward. And also, putting another bad taste in your mouth about it is Russia has been denied the right to have a seat on the council, but has recently made efforts to regain a seat, or so they have shown a lot of interest in having a seat, which is definitely a red flag, and it was not a surprise at all, I don't think, in with the United States withdrawing from the Human Rights Council, because there's a lot of internal issues which I believe can spread throughout. So there's a lot of bias. There's just there's a lot of internal issues that need to be resolved before they can move outward and kind of move on to bigger issues. So I don't necessarily think that the Human Rights Council should be participating in the trying to make or trying to protect human rights. But yeah, moving forward. But yeah, that's all I have for everybody. But thank you so much.